Welcome back, Truth Seeker. Thursday, August 22nd, 2019. Want to talk about what's going on in the news, but before we do that, I want to start right here with this image. Do you recognize this person? Have you ever seen this face before? And the answer should be no, because this is a randomly computer-generated image. And I wanted to revisit this story from February of 2019. CNN ran this as their top story for much of this day, February 28th, 2019. And it was about a website called This Person Does Not Exist, that every time you go there, you get a new randomly generated face that looks realistic. So if we click on it now, this is the latest image. That is not a real person. And as I said in February, we often see faces in the media that look just like this, that are about stories with bizarre details that seem far-fetched or unrealistic, or there's no real evidence to support what's being told outside of the mainstream narrative we're being fed. So just realize every time you click on this link, you get a person that's not real. Here's a child, And in less than the last week, we've seen 4 faces in the media of supposed terrorists that the federal government stopped from mass shootings. Faces that look just like this, but if you look at the names, you have to scratch your chin and go, I don't think I've ever heard anybody with any name like that ever before. And it's like this week after week. They give you a face that looks real and then a name that's completely bizarre. And, to jog your memory, how about this one from 2012? Adam Lanza. So, as we know, technology's come a long way since 2012. This Person Does Not Exist is the site to check out. And just keep that story in mind as we go through some of the stories tonight. Before we get to the mass shootings that have been stopped and Donald Trump talking in front of helicopters, Larry King's divorce, couple other things, I want to talk about the most recent death in the hip-hop world. This was news yesterday, August 21st, 2019. The death happened the night prior, August 20th, in Detroit, Michigan. The story was T. Grizzley's car shot at. If you don't know who that is, he's a somewhat famous rapper. He has a hit song, which we'll talk about. And in that shooting, his manager/aunt, so his aunt was his manager, was killed. And it's not the first time there's been a headline like this or story like this, a rapper's car shot at. The rapper is untouched, but, somebody close to him is killed. It's a story that's come up again and again over the years. Anyhow, here's what stands out about this. We'll get to how his hit song that came out November 2016 relates directly to this story. But first of all, the news was August 21st, 2019, hours after the killing. That was a date with 68 numerology. The rapper's name, T. Grizzley, equals 68. Most pure cipher. And of course, 68 associated with death. Caskets go 6 feet deep or 8 feet long. The date can be written 21/8, August 21st. It was a news story about a death. Death, 218 in the English extended cipher, which is a tribute to Hebrew Gematria and Greek isopsophy. And as for the date of the killing, August 20th, 2019, it was a date with 67 numerology. As we know, a number that shows up all the time around suspicious deaths. Blood sacrifice equals 67. His hit song that put him on the chart was First Day Out, which equals 67. I'll come back to this song in just a moment. The date of the killing was also a date with 47 numerology. 47 degrees on the Masonic compass. Masonry has a lot of influence in the world of entertainment. Look at the rapper's name in light of his hit song and in light of Freemasonry. T. Grizzley and First Day Out, 158, 139. Freemasonry, 158, 139. If you're new here, there's 4 base ciphers, the alphabetic order forwards and backwards, and those same orders incorporating the rules of numerology for each letter. So in one cipher, T would be worth 20, and the next cipher, T would be worth the numerology of 20. And the numerology of 20 is 2 plus 0 is 2. Numerology is just making a bigger number, compressing it to a single-digit number by adding up each part. So, for example, Z, the 26th letter. 26 would be what? 2 plus 6 equals 8. So Z would be 8 using the rules of numerology. So anyway, forwards and backwards, really intuitive. That's how T Grizzly sums to 158 with the alphabetic order, 139 with the reverse alphabetic order. And what's considered the most pure cipher is the alphabetic order with the rules of numerology. That's where T Grizzly is 68, like the date of the news. Also, from the release of that song, November 7th, 2016, to the death was 33 months and 13 days. More Masonic numbers. Numbers they put in their architecture. Okay, so in the news today, August 22nd, 2019, enough, stay out of this, says Parkland father. And enough, stay out of this sums to 88. Like Trump, like poison, like program. I've been talking about headlines regarding Trump encoding 88 non-stop since 2015 when he hit the campaign trail. I've been making the same point each time. Mainstream media is programming, and Donald Trump's brand of programming, which the media obviously promotes, they're the ones who've kept the spotlight on him since the summer of 2015. Their programming through Trump is poison for the populace. It's divisive. You know, Donald Trump's causing a lot of division, just like we've been pointing out since, again, the summer of 2015. So, even before he was the nominee for the Republican Party, I put out a video and said why he made sense to be the next president in light of the rigged system because of all the division and negative feelings he'll provoke in the populace, which is exactly what he's done. And don't be some Trump supporter in the comments talking about that's not true. It's absolutely true. There's so much more division because of Trump. He's a polarizing figure by design, a puppet on strings doing what he's supposed to do. But in light of this headline, the word enough, again, we've been talking about this with Trump for some time, the word enough, the Illuminati card game, which was brought light to about the Trump card by the UK's Express, which we'll get to in a minute. But also, again, just think about where we started, the story of Sandy Hook, and just think about maybe just how big and contrived this whole circus is. Like, what is real in this world that comes through the mainstream media? What is actually real that is presented to us? You know, Sandy Hook, you can't question it, but if you look at the events, I mean, everybody should raise eyebrows. The picture of Adam Lanza, the emphasis that he weighed 112 pounds. And by the way, for the people who are new here, just do a web search for Adam Lanza, 112 pounds. I didn't understand Gematria when I noticed that every news story was reporting that he weighed 112 pounds. Every news source was sure, and if you were watching it on TV, they would even mention his weight, the newscasters. And I kept saying, why are they reporting that he is 112 pounds? And sometime after that, I learned Gematria, and the first cipher I learned was Simple English Gematria, which is just the alphabetic order. And look at this. If you just write out simple, it's 74. English is 74. Gematria is 74. Energy 74. Occult 74. Masonic 74. Anyway, I first learned this cipher and I made some of those observations and I thought, that's really strange. But then I wrote out Sandy Hook and I noticed it equaled 112 and I thought, 112? And they keep reporting weighs 112 pounds? And then I thought about his initials. A-L, Adam Lanza. A's the first letter. L's the 12th. So A-L's 112. And then one day I noticed his birthday. Let's see. His birthday is April 22nd, which is the 112th day of the year. You see that? April 22nd, the 112th day of the year. Now, for the wise guy out there, they'll point out that April 22nd, 1992 was a leap year, so it was technically the 113th day of the year. And if you've been here from the beginning, I've taught two ciphers. The alphabetic order and the alphabetic order with the rules of numerology. Look at Sandy Hook Elementary School. Whoops, if I can spell right. It's 113, right? And if you recall the day of the Stoneman Douglas high school shooting, they had children walking out with their hands on each other's shoulders, which was the image also put out from Sandy Hook. And I noticed right away, I said, Stoneman Douglas High School equals 113. And of course, that is the number of the mainstream, which is a number that's connected to so many things that have to do with dishonesty. Coming from the Talmud, Bava Kama 113a. Notice mainstream 11341, dishonest 11341. In a moment, we're going to talk about Larry King's divorce, and that's where you have to run the alphabetic order in reverse, which is also important. But just remember these numbers when we get to Larry King. So anyway, Adam Lanza, Mr. 112, and Sandy Hook, and a news story about a Sandy Hook parent who supposedly lost their child, and him saying enough to Trump. I want to talk about this word enough and the phrases enough is enough. So this article is from the UK. It was published February 13th, 2017. Illuminati card game that foretold 9/11 and Diana's death, as in Princess Diana, predicts Trump assassination. And with regards to February 13th, that's the day in recent history Antonin Scalia died on. It's the 44th day of the year. Trump is number 45, but he's only the 44th person to be president. 44, this number associated with death and destruction. And Trump, he is the 44th person to be president. Grover Cleveland had a split term. The word kill's 44, the word execution's 44. A lot of presidential assassinations in history's past have been connected to the number 44. Think of Martin Luther King Jr. on April 4th, 4-4. You think of Malcolm X on a date with 44 numerology. So anyway, they published this story talking about Trump and assassination in 44. If you have not read my book, if you read the chapter on presidential assassinations, you'll see just how redundant the pattern is with 44. So first of all, really interesting that they would publish this story on this date. But then they kind of have fun and say that, the conspiracy theorists are claiming this card looks like Donald Trump. And I mean, if you look at it, there's definitely some similarity. So, also, they kind of make fun of the Princess Diana card that's in this game and realize this game came out before Princess Diana died. Princess Di, a lot of things in this card deck that are called attention to, they've made big news since it came out. And here's the card about September 11th in the World Trade Centers that they're making fun of, And what's funny is if you go through all of these conspiracies in this Illuminati card game and look at these stories using Gematria, you can see things in a hurry. Look at Princess Diana. If you haven't read my book, there's a lot on Princess Diana's death, but real easy things to understand. She was born July 1st, and she died August 31st, and her death was synced with a lot of things, including her own life, as well as Queen Elizabeth, who has the birthday of April 21st. Let me put that up here. So from April 21st, 1997 to the day Princess Diana died, August 31st, take a look at this. Just in case you haven't heard me cover this before or you forgot. Whoops, I need to put 1997. All right, April 21st, the Queen's birthday to the day Princess Diana died. Notice it was 132 days. 132 days. And England, when you run the alphabetic order in reverse, is 132. Princess Diana, with just the alphabetic order, 132. Again, the most simple cipher there is. And back when I first was researching this, I wasn't looking at the reverse ciphers. But you learn the reverse, you see more. And there's so much more to Princess Diana's death, but Just, you got to say, what are the odds? 132 days after the Queen's birthday. And of course, her death synced up with Charles. Her own birthday was July 1st. And the Queen was 71 years old at the time. The Queen was born in 1926. So she had turned 71 years old on April 21st, 1997. Princess Diana's birthday was July 1st. So you get this royal tragedy. Notice royal's 71, like 26. The Queen born in 26. She became the Queen on February 6th. Then she had her coronation June 2nd. Both dates that can be written 2/6 or 6/2. So none of this is an accident. Again, this is the cabal code. This is the code the elites work by, and it really is as simple as ABC 1, 2, 3. I hate when I get critics that say you use so many ciphers because they're all new people. They don't realize that for years I just showed how all these things were connected through the alphabetic order and the alphabetic order with the rules of numerology. But then you learn reverse and you see even more that's encoded. So Diana, she died 61 days after her birthday, and there's something to that as well, but she also died on her 62nd day of her age, 62, and that's a number that connects to Queen. It also connects to sacrifice. So there's so much more to it, but again, you take Gematria and you can actually prove how conspiracies are orchestrated. You know, just like how we showed how the election was rigged for Trump long before he was president. And I guess with regards to September 11th, I've talked about 1,000 times before, but just in case you don't know, my favorite example from September 11th, and there's so many to cover, but my favorite one is Flight 77 in light of September 11th. In the most pure cipher, it sums to 77. If you look up the facts about Flight 77 that supposedly hit the Pentagon, where construction began on it September 11th, 1941, from Flight 77's takeoff time, again, 77 hit the Pentagon, from Flight 77's takeoff time, which was 8:20, to when it crashed at 9:37, according to the 9/11 Commission report, that's 77 minutes later, 8:20 a.m. to 9:37. 77 minutes. You look up the official height of the Pentagon, it's 77 feet tall. And don't be lazy and just type into Google how tall is the Pentagon, because it'll give you a false report, which was changed earlier this year because this knowledge is getting exposed. If you go read the actual documents for how tall the Pentagon is, you'll see that it's 77 feet and 3 inches tall. So you have Flight 77 hit the 77-foot tall Pentagon 77 minutes after taking off. And then the kicker is Washington, D.C.'s on the 77th meridian. And what was the other more notable event on 9/11? Was it the World Trade Center, which of course equals 77? When you run the alphabetic order in reverse, United States is 77. So is secret society. But again, from Sandy Hook to September 11th, numbers are coded. And there's a reason why. The Sandy Hook story had 112 coded all over it because the massacre in the UK that got guns taken away was the Doon Blaine massacre. And that was on March 13th, 96, a date with 112 numerology, 3 plus 13 plus 96. And just using the alphabetic order, just to show you something, Doon Blaine equals 73. Sandy Hook Elementary School was on the 73rd meridian, and that's probably also where they got the name Adam Lanza. So, again, history repeats itself by the numbers and not by accident. It's because, there is an Illuminati in this world. You know that phrase? What is it? How's it go? The devil's greatest trick is to convince the people of the world he never existed. The Bavarian Illuminati was established May 1st, 1776. And just notice the 80 in their name. Last year on August 18th, you had the death of Kofi Annan at age 80. Kofi Annan's name's 80. His full name, Kofi Ada Annan. This year, you get the marriage of The Rock. And, anyway, Bavarian Illuminati rituals every single year. This year on August 18th, the Bavarian Motorworks golf tournament ended. You had the story of the death of Cedric Benson, who was riding a Bavarian Motorworks motorcycle. For those of you who don't know, you probably just know the acronym BMW. That's Bavarian Motorworks. Go back and see my video on the death of XXX Tentacion and his mother wanting the BMW back. But anyway, the Illuminati, Bavarian Illuminati, 80 in the most pure cipher. Notice Satan is 80 when you run the alphabetic order in reverse. And it's obvious that the people who run this world, they are the satanic cabal. Murder by numbers, it's all the things they do. And just to further connect the Bavarian Illuminati, notice the phrase that's used with the Trump card, enough is enough. Notice it sums to 78 and 57, like Scottish Rite is 57 and 78. Notice Scottish Rite of Freemasonry is 127, Bavarian Illuminati is 127. George Washington, the Scottish Rite Freemason, George equals 57, who was inaugurated at age 57, he wrote the letter during his time in office that he was worried that the Bavarian Illuminati had infiltrated all of Freemasonry. And of course, the Bavarian Illuminati was established by Adam Weishaupt, whose name equals 51. Whoops. Adam Weishaupt, May 1st, 1776. Notice the most pure cipher, his name's 51, like the date the Bavarian Illuminati was established. And conspiracy's also 51. But anyhow, George Washington, who was a Scottish Rite Freemason, Washington, D.C., named after the 33rd degree Scottish Rite Freemason, he wrote the letter expressing that he thought it had been infiltrated. And a part of me just wonders if that's all covered too. And they weren't just one synonymous cabal the whole time. But you just got to say, what are the odds? And Jimmy Kimmel, I called attention to this when it first happened. It was about 2 years ago. Jimmy Kimmel, who broadcast from the Masonic Temple of Hollywood, he had an episode and a rant called Enough is Enough, and pretty much that day it was the news story. Jimmy Kimmel's rant against Donald Trump, enough is enough. Trump's first year as president, a little more than 6 months into his term, and I said, that's just like how we've been talking about this card. And since then, we've heard that phrase about 1,000 more times. Oh, by the way, that Jimmy Kimmel news about Enough is Enough was August 16th, 16/8, like 168. Enough is 168. But just so many stories from so many publications with Enough is Enough and Trump in the headlines. So many people saying enough is enough to Trump. And it's been going on since even before he took office. Michelle Obama said it while he was on the campaign trail. Enough is enough to Trump. And just everywhere you look. Even his son in the tweet. If those guys even really run their Twitters. So, August 5th, earlier this month, Tim Ryan said enough is enough about Trump. And remember, August 5th can be written 5/8 like 58. Donald Trump, winner of the 58th U.S. presidential election, announced he was running from the 58-story Trump Tower, hired the 58-year-old Steve Ray for Inauguration Day. Freemasonry equals 58, secret society, Rosicrucian, Washington, United States. But enough is enough. A story that just keeps on coming. A headline that keeps on coming. And I just wonder where the Trump presidency is going to go. Is it going to be 8 years? Again, Trump's 88. Is it going to be 8 years of poisonous programming for the populace to just get everybody, as divided as possible? Or is it that, at the climax of the polarity between them, there will be some event with Trump? Remember how many supposed assassination attempts have been on Trump that they've said have happened? All of them have looked hoaxalicious. But just where's this narrative going to go? And if Trump, let's just say, if Trump was assassinated, if that was a news story we read about one day, what would that do for the populace? Again, he's a very polarizing figure. Some people really like this man. Some people can't stand him. Some people would probably be happy if that was a headline. And, just think about what they're trying to do to the nation. They're just really trying to pit people against each other. It's a story that would absolutely do it. And around the time, what was the guy who shot Reagan? Trump's campaign was so similar to Reagan's. I can't think of his name. Hinckley? Is that the name? I forgot. I can't think right now. But remember how he was released from prison around the time Trump was becoming president? And those stories were circulating that his release was, coming due. And he was the guy that was obsessed with Jodie Foster, if I remember right. But there's this is a story and a scenario worth thinking about, and what would be the result of it. And if it ever should happen, the point of having this knowledge is you can show people. You can be like, look, they were actually giving you the predictive programming of this from the day he took office. And by the way, coming back to this article about 44, again, this number that's connected to assassinations all throughout history, and how this was published on the 44th day of the year in the UK, which is the home of modern Freemasonry. Trump and the House of Cards president, Kevin Spacey, who've had headlines right next to each other for groping people. The House of Cards president, in season 4, episode 4, there's an assassination attempt on his life. He gets shot. And don't forget Donald Trump's Serta commercial talking to sheep on pillars. 11 and 9, a commercial everyone needs to watch and listen carefully. 11 and 9 on pillars. Donald, 119, the man who was announced as president-elect November 9th, the day the Berlin Wall fell. This man's from New York City, like the big pillars, the World Trade Centers. But the president of House of Cards is Francis Underwood, and Francis is 119 like Underwood. In that episode, season 4, episode 4, he gets shot at Hammond University. It's just interesting that Hammond and, Trump, they got some connections. We just saw in the 68 date numerology, 68 days after Trump's birthday, he called himself the Chosen One. In Christianity, that would be like Jesus Christ who got crucified. Word that has something to do with 68 too. So, look at Kanye West's birthday while you're at it. You'll see it's June 8th. Remember the statue showed up of him on the cross in Hollywood, and not by accident? Can you read the book? You'll learn why all these things happen on the dates they did. Because this is how the cabal operates every day. Now, coming back to Illuminati, and where we began at the beginning of this with the website that generates the realistic photos that aren't real people. Since Sunday, August 18th, 18/8, we've gotten 4 stories about 4 potential mass shooters. And the latest came yesterday, August 21st. Supposedly a cook at a Marriott resort had stockpiles of weapons. He was the next Adam Lanza. Remains to be seen if he was 112 pounds, but he was going to go on a mass killing spree. And his name was Rodolfo Montoya. Notice his name's 188, like Bavarian Illuminati. And the other 3 mass shooters who were stopped, they were a story on Sunday, August 18th, 18/8. That was the day of that breaking news. So all 4 of these stories brought together through this one number, all in the week of Sunday, August 18th. Technically, Sunday's the first day of the week. So you just got to say, what are the odds? They said the cook, and remember, we just had the food festival shooting where they said 3 victims survived the Vegas shooting, and they said their names were the Cook brothers at a food festival and Alice Olive at a food festival with the Cook brothers. So now we get and then we had the victim Fudge at the Dayton shooting, if I remember right, or was it the El Paso? It was one of the 2. I think it was Dayton. And anyway, here's the latest. The Cook killer. But notice they say he was 37 years old. We talk about that number a lot with shootings. Shootings 37. Notice Cook's 44 like shooting as well, like kill. Cook's also 64 like kill, like the gematria of his name, Rodolfo Montoya. Again, this is why you want the 4 base ciphers, because with those 4 you can see through most riddles and how it's all coordinated. This story also came on a date with 41 numerology. Came out of Long Beach. Long Beach equals 41 and 67. Killers 41 and 67, so you get this news on the 41 date numerology. It was also a date with 47 numerology. If you just shorten it up, 8 plus 21. Actually, I take it back. I'm wrong about that. It wasn't a date with 47 numerology. It was a date with 48 numerology. Anyhow, Illuminati's 48, to come back to that point. So is Freemason, Hebrew and English. But where are they going with all of these food riddles and the shootings? Here were the images of the 3 supposed mass shooters the federal government caught before they could do it. Just like Rodolfo. You know, those images we were looking at earlier look more realistic, especially these 2 on the right. The one in the middle looks the worst. And, but anyway, it's just like, are these people even real? These are just such convenient stories to just remind people of the programming. Oh yeah, the feds. They stopped these, they did this after 9/11 too. The 5 teenagers that were going to blow up the Sears Tower, almost as believable as the man in the cave who took down the World Trade Centers. So, anyway. Also, I noticed today there was an article published on how Donald Trump's always talking in front of helicopters. And I thought, finally, somebody calls attention to this. I've been talking about this for, a long time. I've been talking about Donald Trump and helicopters since 2016. Even before he was president, before he talked in front of him. Go back and look up the story of Donald Trump saying, "I am Batman" on a helicopter. Really weird headline that everyone published. Donald Trump says, "I am Batman" on a helicopter. And of course there's a riddle to that I uncovered in my book. But, again, helicopters 159 like Donald Trump likes Scottish Rite. We're talking about Washington, D.C., named after the Scottish Rite Freemason George Washington. The helicopter he stands in front of each time is Marine 1, which equals 49, like his author name, Donald J. Trump 49, like Washington 49. When you run it in reverse, America's 49, Scottish is 49. And for the people who are critics and say, "Oh, well, I don't believe in it because you're doing the alphabetic order in reverse too," you have to understand, we were making these types of observations for years, and then we realized when we ran the alphabetic order in reverse, we're like, wow, this does not look coincidental. I mean, Washington, named after a Scottish Rite Freemason, many of which helped find the United States of America. And don't forget ancient accepted Scottish Rite of Freemasonry, which etched on their building, the House of the Temple in D.C. equals 227, which is the 49th prime number. And this story was written about him in front of Marine 1 on a date with 49 numerology. According to the article, they said this is what Stephen Colbert has begun referring to his conversations in front of the helicopter as chopper talk. But it is really bizarre how they do this with Trump. The helicopter ritual, that's mostly where he's talking in front of helicopters. And you think if you're going to sit there and talk for 30 or more minutes, why not turn off the helicopter so you're not having to scream over the thing? And I'm telling you, these occultists, man, they understand energy, frequency, vibration. Think about it. Think about all of this background, distracting, unpleasant noise you're getting while there's this unpleasant man, saying absurd things day after day. The guy really is a loser. And you have to be a loser to not see it. I got to be honest. He criticizes and attacks everybody. And then anytime somebody says something even little back, like, oh, for him to say that about me, that's absurd. And then Donald Trump gets on the TV and starts crying that they said his remarks were absurd. Like yesterday. He goes, "That's nasty." Really, is it nasty for somebody to say that your behavior is absurd? It sounds more like... And realize it's all a contrived puppet show, but, this guy... See, the people who control this nation, they know that they've created this nation of people who have shit values and who worship other people who have shit values because it makes them feel, more, I don't know. Or maybe it makes them feel less guilty about being a piece of shit. There's a lot of people like that in this country. probably somewhere near half. So Donald Trump is the perfect figure for these people because they love it because he reminds them of them. And we've been talking about this since forever, since the beginning of this guy. And I mean, it's just everything about him. You just got to be blind and not see it. Who gets out there and screams in front of a helicopter almost every day when they talk to the press? It's just, the whole thing is a racket. Remember, secret societies, they keep hold of the occult knowledge that most people don't understand, and this is how they rule the world using this stuff. Keeping the whole world fighting with themselves, distracted, entertained. By the way, I just got to wonder about Chopper Talk. They mentioned, in this article about Chopper Talk, they mentioned that it went on for 35 minutes today, and I just said, those are interesting numbers. Those are numbers that connect to Satan, and Chopper Talk's 55. And Helicopter's 666, Fingers is 666. Donald Trump always, doing the weird 666 hand motion with his fingers up by his head. So do a number of TV celebrities and personalities. It is true that when people speak, a lot of times they will touch their pointer finger and their thumb, but usually not up by their head, usually more down. They're not raising their arms up by their head when they're doing it. And Trump just does it so often, and sometimes he even does this. I mean, it's just, Remember the Talmud, the text of the synagogue of Satan, they refer to themselves as the chosen people. And Donald Trump, who is likely a member, he did refer to himself as the chosen one yesterday, on a fitting date as we covered. Now for one last story, for another chosen one, Larry King. Look at this headline. Larry King divorcing his 7th wife after 22 years of marriage. In case you're new here, just a reminder. If you run the alphabetic order forwards and reverse, and you write out geometry, it equals 108. And Gematria means geometry in language. Gematria is the practice of coding numbers into words. 108 gets its relevance from the relationship between the Earth, the Sun, and the Moon. They say the diameter of the Sun is 108 Earths. From the Earth to the Sun is the diameter of 108 suns. And from the Moon to the Earth is the diameter of 108 moons. Look up this number 108 and read about it. You'll be amazed how many things there are in the world in regards to spirituality in 108. But 22 divided by 7, it is the mathematical shorthand to pi. And if you write out 22 divided by 7, let's see. Just using the alphabetic order, just using the most simple cipher there is. 22 divided by 7 is 314. Pi is 3.14. And here, let's just do it real quick. 22 divided by 7. 3.14, right? And we were just talking about this with The Rock and the ritual with him getting married 108 days after his birthday. Geometry and how marriage, if you use the most pure cipher, the alphabetic order with the rules of numerology. Marriage is 45. The Rock got married on a 45-date numerology. Anyway, Larry King, so he's divorcing, the opposite of marriage, right? And notice 7th wife, 22 years. 22 divided by 7, like geometry. And what I've said for a long time is these celebrities, they don't have a choice who they marry, what day they get married, what day they get divorced. It's all ritual by a code to program the populace. People live vicariously through these celebrities. They want to be these celebrities. They want to behave like these celebrities. They want to, this is what they want. So they see that their heroes are, getting married and divorced and doing all this crap. It makes them think like, oh, maybe that's what I want to do. Again, I don't even know why most people are getting married if most people are getting divorced. Because it's like, if you get married, your vows say, until death do us part. You're like repeating those lines. You're nodding to those lines. And then what? It's just background noise. But anyway, this story was from August 21st, 2019, a date with a life lesson number of 41. Divorce is 41, like King is 41. And again, you want to know the multiple ciphers. they say in the story that the papers were filed for separation June 6th, and then they do the story August 21st, 76 days later. Divorce with the alphabetic order, 76. Remember, we talked about this with Usher. Usher, when they published the story about his divorce, it was 76 days after his birthday. Usher files for divorce, and they publish it 76 days after the birthday while he's 40 years old. So again, divorce 7640. Alphabetic order with the rules of numerology. But again, you want to know the other 4 base ciphers because those riddles apply too. It's just like how they did it with Larry King, because King's 41 with the alphabetic order on a 41 date numerology 76 days after he filed. And then 113 is the number of dishonesty. And really, a divorce is a dishonest thing because it's breaking your vows. So I understand in some cases it's probably right. I mean, if you have like a husband who's, beating you to death every day and stealing all your stuff like some women do have, I think the divorce it's okay, but it's like at the same time, what were you doing getting married to that person in the first place? I'm sure the warning signs were there, but again, that's society and cultural programming. It has people doing things they just shouldn't do and believing things they just shouldn't believe, like everything they see in the news. You could read about this guy tomorrow. He could be the next college professor killer or the next mass shooter, Or it could be this guy tomorrow. Or this could be the next Sandy Hook victim. You know what I mean? By the way, if you were here earlier when I was talking about Sandy Hook and 112, look up Noah Posner's death certificate. That's the only one that was ever put out by the media, any image of. November 20th, 112 in that date. You see that 11/20? I think that's a guy that has a YouTube channel that way too many people watch. What's his name? I can't even think of his name. Body odor. Owen Benjamin, that's it. But anyway, all these images, if you don't know, this website just creates a fictitious, realistic looking image every time you click on it. And they look a lot more real. Don't even take me back to that package bomber story or whatever it was from the other day. Guy that looked like he had a giraffe's neck. Anyway. People got to wake up to the age, the deception, the agenda, the building police surveillance state. People got to wake up and realize they don't want to be a part of this celebrity world. Otherwise, they're going to be the next T. Grizzley, having to off their ante. And the world really needs to wake up to this knowledge and how relevant it is and how it is used every single day in the exact same ways we've been exposing since forever. Cedric Benson, dead on the date that I told people to circle for the suspicious date, month after month, same repetitive patterns. So, we'll leave it there, Truth Seeker. Do appreciate all of you. Till next time.